Welcome to Occult of Personality at occultofpersonality.net. Thank you for listening.
My name is Greg Kaminsky, and I'm the host of Occult of Personality podcast. This is episode number 97, featuring an interview with Dennis Fetcho, also known as the Fetch, the man behind the Illuminatus Observer website. Thanks again to the subscribers of the Occult of Personality membership section who fund each and every show. If you haven't already, please consider supporting this show with a subscription to the Occult of Personality membership section. For only $7.95 per month, you'll receive access to all the exclusive recordings, including the archive of old episodes from 1 through 41. The link to the membership section is on the sidebar of the occultofpersonality.net website. Also, don't forget that some membership section recordings are available for sale individually. Just go to the purchase recordings page at occultofpersonality.net/membership. This episode of Occult of Personality podcast is also sponsored by generous donations from listeners David and Steve. Thanks again for sponsoring this show. If you want to sponsor a future episode, simply click the PayPal donate button on the website. Donations of any amount are appreciated. Now, in episode number 97, I chat with Dennis Fetcho, known as the Fetch. The Fetch writes a blog named the Illuminatus Observer at illuminatusobserver.blogspot.com. That's illuminatusobservor.blogspot.com. And the companion podcast called Inside the Eye. The Fetch has spent the last decade developing the Isisian codes, a form of English Gematria that he says reveals the underlying mathematical philosophy of what he refers to as the Illuminatus. We'll talk about his website and the themes that it covers, including English Qabalah, Hermeticism, lost word Freemasonry, the deconstruction of mythology and religion, conspiracy, astrotheology, and much more. If you're not already familiar with the Illuminatus Observer, be sure to read Fetch's posts there and to listen to his podcast, Inside the Eye, for all of Fetch's amazing research on the codes and English Gematria. Welcome, Fetch, proprietor and the man behind the Illuminatus Observer and its podcast companion, Inside the Eye. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, Greg.
It's a pleasure to speak with you, and I know we've been talking about doing an interview for a while now, so I'm really pleased that we were able to connect, because I know we're on different parts of the planet here, different sides of the world.
Yes. Yeah, it's actually been good to finally get up and meet with you, so looking forward to doing the show.
Excellent. So I want to start by talking about your blog site, the Illuminatus Observer. Could you tell us why you started and what you're hoping to accomplish with it?
Sure. The reason why I started the Illuminatus Observer is because going back in time, I had developed the concept of the Illuminatus Observer really through many of the mass medium forums and out there. You know, you're talking about Above Top Secret and quite a few others, Above Top Secret being one of the larger ones. And what I found really were the concept was getting trolled. I'm sure you're familiar with the world of trolls on the internet. And basically it would get trolled and I would find myself getting banned. And I thought to myself, well, gee, it's about time then that since I'm not going to get a free pass on the mass market circuit, I'm going to have to build my own audience. Mm-hmm. And so I put together the Illuminatus Observer for the point of basically releasing my ideas with the ability to keep the trolling down so that people who wanted to come, and I already knew I had a good following on these mass market forums. So once I put this together, I thought, okay, I already know I have the audience because I can see the excitement in the mass market forums. And then just kind of bit the bullet and said I have to build my own audience. And I started the Illuminatus Observer.
Excellent. So why do you think it was that you were getting banned and blocked?
Good question. I really think, and this is going into kind of the conspiracy world, but if you're looking when I started this, you're talking 2000, 2001, 2002, up to 2004, before it went live, 2005. And this was basically the heart of the neocon movement. And you had a lot of mass market forums that were basically being what appeared to be monitored. The second you said anything negative about anything related to Israel or Jewish concepts, it was like everybody would have this itch to just come at you and get you. And basically it was really an overbearing type of domination on the net from particular groups that just would not allow concepts as the Illuminatus Observer, which was really a fresh idea towards Qabalah as an occult science. It was still fresh and new back then. And the second that I would bring something up that was purely of Western context and tried to remove it from this rabbinical context, I found myself really getting hammered quite heavily. And so I think basically that maybe it was part of this neocon movement that sought to dominate thought that we saw, 4, 5, 7 years ago.
It's fascinating. Do you still get any type of resistance from people about the information now that you've moved off the forums and have your own website?
Really, no. Mm-hmm. Really, no. In fact, ever since then, it got trolled the first year. You'd have people trolling on the comment section of the blog with the same stupidity. It's basically this childish stupidity that it became after a while. But once they realized that, you can spend your time commenting, but you're not going to get a free pass on my blog, you already had your shots at me, then it pretty much died out. And now it's really 97% positive comments that I get on the Illuminatus Observer.
Excellent. Okay. Now, I'd like to frame what you do with your website and your podcast a little bit more, because there may be people listening who aren't familiar or looking at the site for the first time now. How would you describe it to someone who may be familiar with the concepts you discuss but isn't familiar with your work?
Well, the Illuminatus Observer is really the definitive blog on Hermetic Qabalah, Western mysticism, the philosophies that were contained or embedded into the English language. That is the theory. And what I put forward in the Illuminatus Observer is really a comprehensive case that English is a constructed language, that it's basically a code, that within this language and within its alphabet is a particular code, particular philosophy. And this philosophy was really part of continental Freemasonry and the systems that they were putting in, the philosophies they were putting in place while they were building up what we could call Western America. It's really based on Freemasonic ideals and symbolism and concepts as it was embedded into the English language.
That's a fascinating concept. And I know for many people, myself included, always got the impression that English was created and not organically evolved language, especially with the alphabet and the way that certain words seem to function. But you're the first person that I've encountered who seemed to explain it in any kind of methodical, analytical way.
This is true. The alphabet, if we want to go just touch on the alphabet briefly, if you really study the alphabet and break it down, it's such a unique alphabet. And what, of course, I do, Greg, and you know this yourself, but I show how the alphabet is a multidimensional representation of pi. Pi being the omnific word of the Freemasons and the lost word, which was to be recovered as part of their sacred science. And when you look at these letters and understand how it's structured and put together, and of course the blog explains it very well, it it's a very strong case that it is a manufactured alphabet, and quite probably is this omnific word that the Freemasons, and I'm talking about the Continental Freemasons, were speaking about.
Now, you said a couple times when you're talking about it that this is a theory. Is this a theory that you've developed on your own, or was this something that came from someone else?
The theory is entirely my own. The idea started to come to me around 1996 when I was just playing with the alphabet, doing, just summing the numbers, summing the letters. And of course I would take 1, and then 1 plus 2 is 3, and 1 plus 2 plus 3 is C. And what I wanted to do is, instead of taking the Crowleyan approach, where I would use Gematria and like this skip code of 11 digits, mm-hmm. I basically wanted to apply a summation code to the alphabet. And when I did this, I started to see these amazing patterns like showing up. Like, you look at B, and 1 plus 2 equals 3, and it's comprised of the 1 and the 3. You're thinking, well, wait a minute, is this an accident? Mm. And then I'm, is it really an accident? And then, of course, you have the various occult admonitions, like the goddess Isis is pregnant with Horus. And, of course, I know about the achromatic cipher, which says that the gods were actually the components of a sacred alphabet, and the initiated, they worship the uninitiated worship the alphabet, or these gods, these letters of the alphabet, as if they were gods. And I'm thinking, okay, now is B really Isis, pregnant with Horus? You make the bottom bigger than the top. Well, a pregnant woman is usually her belly is bigger than the top. And then, of course, I extended this out to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, and that, of course, is 10. And if you turn D on its 90 degrees on its axis, or on its side, drop it to the left, you're going to have the sun coming up as on the horizon. And then, of course, the word horizon had like the letter H, which is pi, and ORIZ, which is 0, and ON is 1, which is, so pi is like the 0 and the 1. And I start looking at these patterns. I'm saying, well, can this really be an accident? Mm-hmm. And, of course, I dug further and further into it, expanded the concept into what now is the Illuminatus Observer from a mass market point of view. And I think the case now is very strong that this language encodes a philosophy. And this philosophy is actually a very positive philosophy. And I try to bring this positivity out, in the face of the negativity we hear about various secret societies. I believe that what was created was quite good for humanity, and I try to bring that positive idea and concept out in my blog.
Has anyone in an academic field or historical research field taken a look at this to try to integrate what you've brought forward here with their own theories or ideas about the evolution of English?
In short, no. Really, no. I've actually, excuse me, I've actually not approached them. I'm here in the Middle East. I know a lot of doctors with linguist degrees. These are doctors of linguists.